Hello, everybody. We are the SpiffyNeedleGeeks, and once again, we are here for another Steven Universe-esque vlog type deal. We never really give a name to these things, did we? They're just discussions.
Steven Universe discussions or something like that.
We don't need a fancy name.
Steven Needlegeeks. Anyway, so.
God damn it.
While not necessarily a bomb, we were treated to the beginning of a Steven Universe special. It's going to be spanning between 5 episodes over the next month. So we already got 2 of them in this first one, and then we'll get the remaining 3 over the next 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll delve right into it. The first episode was Super Watermelon Island. So quick episode synopsis. The episode begins with us, recapping with the Watermelon Stevens that we saw so long ago.
All
the way back in season 1.
Yeah, all the way back. And if there's one thing that I can say, this is, I think probably what Steven Universe does best is how they handle their continuity. I mean, there is barely anything that I can think of that, has been brought up even as far back as the early episodes that hasn't in some way, shape, or form influenced the future episode. I mean, Steven Universe is really good at it. And
if you can't think of something, chances are it's going to be important later.
Right.
So, in this episode, we begin through the perspective of one of the Steven Watermelons. It wakes up from this this random coma or whatever. Like we'll explain why in a bit. When it's treated to a watermelon dog. I'm not necessarily sure how that happened. I guess Steven's part dog now. But so we see that the Steven Watermelons has started this random little community on as it turns out, the island where Steven, Lars, and Sadie were quote unquote trapped on earlier on. And they started this little village. They grow baby Steven watermelons in the gardens and then give them to random Steven couples. It's kind of creepy, actually, how they just grow a bird.
Take that, Tumblr.
Yeah, they literally throw these.
You cannot corrupt these watermelons.
They literally throw these babies into a giant carriage and just drop them off at random houses. Okay. We see that.
Babies, get your babies here.
All
of one. Anyway.
Yeah, then we see that they ring this bell as it progresses, and we see this shaman watermelon, it's this elder watermelon, whatever, who has all the watermelons line up and kind of do this pose, and the one that we saw was just doesn't do, I guess, the little salute, whatever, and is chosen. It gets a yellow star painted on it, S to Steven's shirt. Little flower crown, and then just put is then carried via very ominous tribute like way to the edge of a cliff, where it is then meted by Malachite, who instantly gets angry at it, yells at Steven's name before devouring the poor little guy, and then we jump straight to Steven, who wakes up as if it was all a dream. Except we find out it wasn't actually a dream, because we know Steven at this point has some essence of telepathic abilities when it comes to other gems, and because these are Watermelon Stevens, these are his DNA, they were created from him. It's understandable that when using this telepathy, he can take the body of one of the melons. That's effectively what he did.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's it's kind of again, it's kind of like a throwback to, way back in season 1 when we were dealing with these watermelons. It was stated that rose quartz had power over plant life and everything. I mean, she could create plant life, she could manipulate and everything. So, of course, it was no wonder that Steven could do the same thing. And then you think back to, a couple of episodes back, when we last saw Lapis Lazuli and everything, with the dreams and stuff. That was he was kind of telepathically talking to her in his dreams and stuff. So it's they kind of took the 2 concepts and it's okay, now we're bringing them together.
Yes. So Steven wakes up in a panic. He now knows where Malachite is for sure. They're on this. This. I forget the name of the island, but it's So
did the island ever have a name?
It had a name, and I'll post on screen what it was called. But it's so he tells the gems, Paradox, like, what about the cluster and the drill? And, they're just like, we need to deal with Malachite first, otherwise there may be complications. Steven, you stay here, it's too dangerous, the three of us will take care of it. So, yeah, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, they go off to the island, they go deal with it. And, Steven and Paradox are kind of just sitting there like, so what do we do now? And I love, like, Steven's like, I need to go help them, but they want me to stay here to stay. And I love Paradox retort to this. It's like, why don't you just don't listen to them? You're rebels. Isn't that what you guys do? Rebel? And I was like, oh, I see what you did there, girl. But it's like, so
you're not wrong.
But then Steven gets an idea. Wait a second, I'll just go back to sleep, take over another watermelon, and help them that way. That way I can help them and stay safe. Smart Steven.
Haha, loophole.
So yeah, sure enough, so the lethargic Steven here just goes right back to sleep, and he takes over another watermelon. And we saw the process this time, where it's like, there was a poor watermelon just playing hacky sack, and then all of a sudden it passes out, and then we see Steven wake up in it. And then yeah, he runs over to see, sure enough, like, we see Malachite and the gems, and the gems ready to confront it. And finally, for the first time, I was so excited about this, we saw the gems dance to create Alexandrite.
Yeah, again, Alexandrite, back in season 1, there was an episode where, Steven and Connie, their parents wanted to meet up and everything. So they're like, all right, we'll have dinner. Steven's like, okay, I'll bring Dad. But, he's like, oh, wait, what do I do about Mom? My mom's gone and the gems have been my mom. So their solution was, okay, have all three of them combine. So it's like, imagine this family dinner where it's like, okay, you got Connie, Steven, Connie's parents, Greg, and then this giant fucking fusion just sitting at a table.
This six-armed, two-mouth woman here.
Yeah, it was one of the funniest episodes of that season. So it's like, really nice to see this actually come back.
And then came the big fight between Alexandrite and Malachite. The one fight that everybody was all hyped about. Ever since they showed a preview of that very fight, I think maybe at least a month or two ago.
Yeah, when they were first teasing the special. When they were first teasing the special, yeah. But it's like, hell, it's like, yeah, this was such an epic fight. Like, we saw, between Alexandrite's powers, between Lapis and Jasper, and then we saw something I only thought of in concept, but actually was finally shown how Alexandrite, took advantage of all the different weapon fusions between all the other fusions we've seen. Like, she used the bow, she used the mace, she used the hammer. I thought that was really cool.
Well, when you think about the other fusions and stuff, you do see that they can summon their original weapons. They just combine them to form the new ones. We saw that with Sugalite, whereas, combine Garnet's gloves with Amethyst's whip, and that's where you get the whole ball and chain. And then, it's Sardonyx. You saw, the Pearl's spear and Garnet's gloves, and that formed the hammer. So it's like, it's a concept we'd seen before, but it's like, yeah, now we're seeing every freaking weapon type that we've seen so far. It's like, the only thing, I kind of wish that, again, I'm not sure how, but I kind of wish that we had seen a new weapon with Alexandrite, somehow forming all three of them, but I'm not quite sure. What could you come up with all three of them, because their weapons are so varied?
I feel like that would be too complicated, and they really didn't need it considering all the variations they already had. So
right.
So
and plus this doesn't just extend to Alexandrite. When you look at Malachite, it had Jasper's helmet. It was using Lapis Lazuli's water wings. So doesn't apply to just the good guys. Applies to the bad guys too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Of course, while they're fighting, it seems like Malachite's actually winning. So Watermelon Steven gets the idea, to have the other watermelons help them. And of course, they're sheltering off in a cave. And of course, Steven, with his Steven-y ways, inspires all of them with his watermelon talk to go out and fight to help Alexandrite. And that's exactly what they do. It's like at first, Alexandrite's losing. One thing I want to point out, actually, is Malachite. One of the things Malachite brings up is how, it's like, you're right, this isn't a cheap tactic. There's so much more to this. As if she's going power hungry with this new power she has as a fusion. And that I found interesting, that, and that was clearly the Jasper side saying that. But it's so they're getting ready to crush.
Pretty much this entire fight is Jasper.
Yeah, like poor Lapis is pretty much done. She was at her limit. But it's like, so Yeah, so it seems like Alexandrite's about to get crushed, but then the watermelon Stevens, they start shooting arrows at it. They start catapulting rocks at their eyes. Some of them glided and cover her eyes. They even trip the big guy, start stamping on him. Of course, Malachite's just like, like, what are you guys gonna do? But of course,
she's just kind of brushing it off,
Of course, they catapulted rocks at Malachite.
Yeah, but pretty much, yeah. So, but that of course gave Alexandrite enough time. That was more of a diversion than anything else. And Alexandrite comes back in, and it makes the final blow with this glorious arrow combining the 3 gems, which was something very akin of of Rose Quartz cannons that we saw all the way in episode 2.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. And of course, Malachite blows up. Jasper and Lapis fall. Alexandrite catches the 2, and that does it. The fight's won. Alexandrite turns back into the 3 prior gems. Watermelons are happy. Steven Watermelon goes up to them and hugs Pearl, and they instantly recognize them as Steven, is that you in there? They're very aware of Steven's telepathic powers now, because it was him taking over a melon. How they found out Malachite was there to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but then not long after that, earthquakes start to happen, and the ground starts cracking, and the whole island starts rocking. And then, of course, fucking Jasper, who's still unconscious, falls into this crevice. We see, Lapis is about to go down, but Amethyst grabs her. Jasper goes, and they just fucking let her fall. They don't even try. And I'm just sitting here everyone...
Yeah, it's this is definitely not the end of Jasper. I mean, it's okay, she fell down a hole. It'll probably be like another season or something before she climbs out of the hole.
And I want to point out,
it's what exactly is in that hole supposedly.
Well, we'll get to that in a bit. But it's I laugh at everyone who go on it's it was too late. You saw Pearl try to reach. I'm just sitting here Garnet many times before stretched out her arms to grab Steven out of peril. She didn't fucking bother with Jasper here. Of
course not.
They let that gem fall.
yeah. Jasper is an asshole. What? I mean, really?
So of course, the crystal gems tell Steven, as the watermelon, it's up to you. Get Peridot to start up the drill. Go down there and stop the cluster. We won't be able to make it back in time. It's up to you. And that's where this episode ends off with Steven waking up from the watermelon dream.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what. And I guess before we begin with the next episode, so what overall thoughts of this episode?
I thought it was a pretty good one. I mean, it's like I said, it was great how they brought the watermelon Stevens back into the continuity and everything. It wasn't like a one-off thing like freaking Cat Fingers was. So it's that's actually, so I do appreciate the continuity. And I swear, because I remembered when you gave us the link, when you gave me and Ryan the link to watch this episode, and it was when they were doing the whole ritual and everything, my first thing I said, this is the fucking lottery ritual, isn't it? And sure enough, it was. So I was oh my God. That's for those of you who don't know, there's a short story that's literally called The Lottery. It's a very infamous short story. It's really good if you can track it down and read it. But it's all about how there's this small community that, maybe 100 people or something, not a very big community, but they have this belief that, when the time, every year they have to draw for a lottery, and the result of the lottery will help, it will help bring the harvest and everything. And you find out, you're wondering, what the hell are they talking about? What's this lottery and everything? And, the story ends where it's one person is picked and they're stoned to death. That's how the story ends. So it's oh, okay, it's a freaking sacrifice ritual and everything. And it's that was my first thought when I was oh my God, it's a freaking lottery virgin sacrifice thing or something, isn't it? And sure enough, it was. It was BJ over here is cackling like an idiot because, he already saw the episode when it aired on TV. Ryan and I didn't. So here we are talking about this, and he's just I'm not saying anything. And it's because, it turns out I was fucking right.
I just can't believe that the decision of which watermelon was going to be up for that sacrifice was that one thing that we used to do as kids is okay, last one to put their finger on their nose gets to do whatever. And it's like, oh, god damn it, really?
Well, they are, watermelons based around Steven's DNA. So, of course, they're probably going to have somewhat of a childlike mentality.
I'm not saying that was a bad thing, per se. I'm just saying that was fucking genius. Mm-hmm. I'm just glad that I was able to finally get to see the Alexandrite and Malachite fight, like, in the actual episode itself. Because that was already, like, the biggest thing that I was waiting for. Even though I kind of already saw it in the preview, I was just glad to actually see it, like, in an actual episode.
Yeah. I was like, they've been hinting at Malachite for some time, so we knew Malachite was coming.
And of course,
the question was, we just didn't know when she was coming, but we knew she was.
Exactly, yeah.
And with that, like, it's safe to say at this point, the Malachite arc is over. It's done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting too, because it lasted a whole fucking season, like just about, because the first episode of season 2 was like right after they escaped the ship, and that episode before Steven had that whole, like breakdown with Connie and such. Yeah. And so we saw our first appearance of Malachite was season 1. This first episode, Super Watermelon Island, is the first episode of season 3. Like, I'm assuming that's what I'm seeing. So
it's pretty much technically the first episode of the new season. So episode 1 of season 3.
Yeah, but long story short, they've really been taking their time in building up, the anticipation when it comes to Malachite. And it's like, bravo Crewniverse for, building that up, because, they did a really good job.
Plus on top of that, give major props to Lapis for actually holding down the Jasper side of Malachite for, literally an entire season.
Yeah, as long as she could.
Now, speaking of which, there's one thing I would like to point out as well. When Malachite exploded, leaving Jasper and Lapis behind, one detail I noticed, we never saw Jasper's face. It was always obscured, which kind of worries me. What happened to her face? Like, did her nose crack or something? Like,
I don't know. I didn't even really notice that, actually.
Yeah, that's where I was like, I don't know. I don't think it's too much to look into.
And
I do got to say though, I really love the line that Alexandrite said before she fired the arrow and everything. She aimed at them and she said, "You two need some time apart." That's like, oh, that was such Garnet sass right there. Because, it's like, Garnet's the one that's always talking about, how fusion brings people together and everything. So to see her go the opposite route, it's like maximum sass.
I still love all the comics that I've been seeing across the internet about Jasper. Like how Jasper was like, Jasper's finally back. 10 seconds later, she's fucking dead. I can't believe it. It's like, I think
believe this bullshit.
You know what? I think my favorite one though is, it's like we see Jasper fall down the crack. It's like she wakes up. Oh, what happened? Next thing you know, howdy, you're new to the underground, aren't you?
Oh God.
That would have been Undertale would have been a whole fucking different game if Jasper was the main character.
Oh my God, Jasper! I'm just thinking Jasper and Flowey.
Genocide all the time.
Oh God, they are fucking good.
In this world, it's kill or be killed. And then Jasper just headbutts Flowey into the ground.
And then
friendliness pellets.
God, and then someone went so far as make at least a 7-second vine or whatever, just showing the animation of fucking Jasper sliding down the rock or whatever. It's like they did it with a slide to the left, slide to the right,
what?
reverse.
Okay.
Jasper Cha-Cha.
All right, enough shitting on Jasper. Let's move on to the next episode.
But yeah, it's like I said, I think it's safe to say, Jasper's out temporarily. I really don't think they're just gonna kill her off. Not like that. So it's like she fell down a hole. She fell down into the underground. she'll find a way out.
Yeah, there is
she'll have to break the barrier first, but you know.
She'll probably kick Asgore's ass.
There is no way that they would kill off Jasper, like, at the beginning of the new season, like, when she makes this triumphant return. Yeah, there is no way they would kill her off.
She disappeared in, like, the same fashion that Peridot did when she escaped the ship, so...
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays out. But in any which case, the next episode, which is hard to say if it's really the next episode, because it doesn't even start off with like an episode title or anything. It starts off immediately, like after the commercial break, immediately continuing on where the last one left off with.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we see blackness. All we hear is Garnet saying, you know, Steven, we love you. And Steven wakes up. The ground is shaking. Peridot's getting ready to get in the drill. It's like, Steven, get up here. We have to go now. Where are the others? Steven's like, they won't be able to make it back in time. We have to go now. And I like, you know, Peridot tries to give Steven a little pep talk. It's like, you know, are you ready to travel down to the depths of the earth? Like, you know, where no other humans ever gone before. And Steven's like, I don't know. And she's like, that's not the answer I wanted. I want you to say, we are going to do this. Like, I'm probably butchering exactly what she said, but it's like, we're going to stop the cluster and everything will be okay.
We're going to do this together and it's going to be great.
Liar. Like, yeah, she has.
There was even like a comment that Steven made, I think it was, where it's like, how are you going to fit everybody into the drill? Because there was only enough room, literally, for him and Paradox. It's like, how are you going to fit everybody in?
Yeah, like Peridot was like, you know, I don't know, like they'll shrink or something. We really didn't have enough time to think of the details.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, so they're on their way down. You know, it's like Peridot's like, it's gonna take like 2 hours to get there, and she starts like fucking elevator music.
Okay, well,
so yeah,
it's not the Star Wars music, but yeah, close to it.
Okay,
anyway.
So they're on their way down, and they have a slight conversation too. You know, it's like, you know, Steven's kind of asking Peridot, you know, like what was your life like on Homeworld? And Peridot's only retort is like, I didn't exist, and then I did. I don't have memories, only feelings. Like, you know, like pretty much insinuating that, yeah, like on like in the gem culture, like you only have purpose. Like it's only to be useful or be destroyed. That's it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, she's not living life.
Yeah. So it's like, she even brings up, yeah. So Steven's like, do you miss it? And Peridot's like, it's hard to not have feeling for the place you came from, but that doesn't matter anymore because I have you guys now. And it was all sentimental and sad and sappy, and it was cool. And then and Peridot even gives like a quick little synopsis, like, you know, when they're passing like the mantle, I think is what it's called, like the lava area. Yeah. Or the magma area, I should say. You know, she describes how it's made of the same stuff that makes Paradots. And like, but sure enough, once they reach a certain depth, they actually get boarded by the prototype gem cluster fusions. Like, you know, the limbs and stuff, and they start like they're going into the ship. And Peridot explains, you know, it's like, you know, they're you know, they have no sentience. They're just, you know, they're literally just trying to find the other pieces of themselves to reform. And then, yeah, she pulls out this blaster, which was controlled by a Nintendo 64 controller, which I thought was the funniest thing. You know, and gives it to Steven so he can, you know, take care of the crystals of the prototypes. And Steven's like, you know, this doesn't feel right. No, I love Peridot's retort. And then use the D-pad.
Yeah, it's like, it kind of reminded me of that old show. What was it? Megas XLR or something?
Yeah,
it was like there was an entire episode where it's like he did a battle using a DDR pad.
Oh my god! Yes.
Yeah, like that's just the Crewniverse making fun of, you know, the jankiness of the Nintendo 64 controller. But no, like what Steve meant was like it didn't feel right to him to like destroy all those limbed gems. Like how they're still going to be trapped under there, and if he can bubble them, it'd be okay. And Paradox said there's nothing we can do for them now. You know, they're too far shattered for them to even know what they're doing. And of course, they finally get to the bottom. Or, you know, the very bottom, and they find the cluster, which literally is this giant, this massive, probably this moon-sized, like gorge of nothing but shattered gems. Mm-hmm. And you know,
cluster, dun dun dun.
And when they finally see it, all of a sudden, like, you know, it starts glowing the white color, which we would see when a gem is getting ready to reform. And, Steven and Peridot think that, we're too late. There's nothing we can do. Peridot starts, lamenting her feelings, saying, I'm sorry I couldn't save you and all the other people on this planet that mean significantly less to me. Steven, do you have any final words? I love you, Peridot.
I love you, Peridot.
Wow, thanks.
Wow, thanks.
That meant so much to her. It was amazing.
She's like, oh, Steven, why are you so cute?
But of course, that obviously isn't the end, and the cluster stops forming for a moment, where Peridot thinks, okay, we still have a chance, and they bring the drill down and start drilling into the surface. While it's doing that, though, and this is where I got fucking terrified and where my heart started racing. Like, it already was doing that, but it got even more so intense at this point. Steven, it looked like it was hurting Steven's ears. Like, something was, really grinding at his ear canal. And Peridot got really worried. Like, are you okay? Are you okay for us to continue? And Steven's like, yeah, don't worry about me, just keep going. And Steven starts having all these ghastly illusions. Like, all these ghostly faces just keep popping into his vision. And, it looks like he's suffocating there for a second. Like, he's grabbing at his chest, his gem starts glowing, and, he's gasping for air. I thought he was going claustrophobic, or, that he was running out of, or that the air was too thin down there for him. Peridot stops what she was doing, because, the three drills on their machine are breaking off, because Steven can't control himself, and he's panicking too much. And, Peridot stops what she's doing, and just, tries to figure out what's wrong with him. And then... bless you. And then, but eventually Steven passes out and goes into a fever dream, which leaves him to telepathically end up in the cluster's conscious. So he's able to talk to the cluster, which I thought was kind of amazing. But of course, because
I mean, it's I know. Again, we kind of established the whole telepathic connection and everything, so it's it shouldn't be too surprising to see this come out of the blue. I mean, it made sense with the Watermelon Stevens because, like you said, they were made directly from him. But, we saw him actually, we saw him communicate with Lapis Lazuli before Malachite eventually took over and everything. So, I mean, it's it was established that, in some way, he can connect with other gems.
Only through his dreams, though, because, I don't think it was... I noticed a lot of people didn't really catch this, but Steven passed out. And he was then dreaming at that point, which is how he was able to talk to the cluster. And the cluster itself, it was obviously being millions and millions of shattered shard pieces of all these different consciences. It's thousands of different voices not really thousands, billions, I should say, of different voices speaking at once. All they want is they want to form. They want they want to get out. And Steven's telling them, you don't need to do that, he's trying to convince them otherwise. But he, being fucking pure Steven he actually ends up doing so. He tells them, if all you want is company, you guys have each other, shard meet shard. And that somehow does end up working. The consciousness stop speaking as one and kind of start speaking as a bunch of different people now, and they're starting to talk to each other. And, but at that point, they're so far along with forming that they can't control it anymore. And Steven gets the idea where it's I'll start bubbling each and every one of you shards. And, oh boy. It's okay, 5 down. Oh, jeez. But he finally wakes up and he gets the idea. We can't, let's not destroy the cluster. Let's just bubble it. And Peridot's, of course, are you fucking insane? How? But of course, when Steven talked to it and started bubbling them from their conscience, that gave the cluster the idea to bubble each other. And I know, Danny, you kind of called bullshit on this because they're still shards and such.
This is where the episode loses me. And it's that's a very weird thing for me to say because, I mean, I've been behind every episode and everything, and it's even when they do some strange shit, it's all right, I see where this is going. This, I think, is the first time where I watched it, and I can't... To me, it kind of feels okay, now you're stretching this. I get you'd want a peaceful resolution and stuff, but it's I don't know. To me, it just seems it's a little bit of a stretch here.
Well, it's the way I see it, because they were already on the brink of forming, I'm sure, some of their powers were already, on the verge of becoming. So with what they had before they actually did form into one being, they probably used that power to be able to bubble each other. And because of that, Steven was able to combine all those bubbles along with his own bubble and literally bubbled the entire cluster.
And that's kind of where I call bullshit. Again, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure maybe there is just something I'm not seeing, but when it comes to the whole bubbling thing that we've been seeing all throughout the series and stuff, yeah, they bubble shards and everything, but it's always been like Steven bubbling, or it's been, Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl bubbling and everything. It's always been like, a whole person, doing the bubbling. And it's like, we haven't really seen, like, the shards. When we do see shards, they're kind of powerless and on their own and everything. That's why, like, that was why the whole cluster thing was a major fucking deal and everything, because you're taking all these like, shards that can't really do anything by themselves, and you're forcing them together and everything. But here in this situation, it's like, I don't know, to me, it's like, this is where I'm like, it's a little bit of a stretch, because now you're saying the shards have the ability to bubble, and if that's the case, then why hasn't this been introduced way earlier on? Why do we need Steven and the other gems to be bubbling if the shards can bubble themselves? These are some of the questions that are kind of coming into my head.
No. It's not that the shards are bubbling themselves. They're bubbling each other. Like, one shard is bubbling the shard next to it, and then vice versa.
But my point still stands. The shards have the power to bubble. So that's where it's like,
well, to
me, that's where I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know.
Well, that's what I brought up prior, where it's like, they're on the verge of forming, so I imagine they have some kind of power. And yeah, they are, and like Peridot does bring up, yeah, they're so far shattered that they've lost all sanity, and they're not really themselves anymore. But I'm guessing when Steven talked to them and kind of helped re-clarify their minds, for the most part anyway, that probably, and like, remember, like, when he was bubbling them, like, he wasn't really bubbling the shards themselves. He was bubbling inside their conscience. So more than likely, him doing that probably gave them the same idea. I want to imagine, anyway. I know, I will agree, it is stretching it. Like, it very much is. But at the same time, at this rate, how else could they have stopped this conflict? Because it's one of those things where it's like, I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other night, and she brought up a very big thing where it's like, Steven is very much an unprejudiced kid. He sees every single life form as equals, people, animals, and gems. So if Steven actually went through with killing these gems off with this cluster, like, that would destroy the pure essence that Steven has been up to this point. That would probably haunt Steven more than likely. Even though, yeah, he saved the planet, but he killed someone in the process.
Yeah, character development.
Alright.
Character development. No, we have to keep Steven pure. No killing. Steven's not allowed to kill.
Okay, alright. So, just to clarify,
and on top of that...
oh, god damn it. What?
I'm sorry, Ryan. It's like, on top of that, how else could they have stopped this cluster, aside from bubbling? Because we have already established, if a gem is stuck in a bubble, it can't form.
Yeah, plus on top of that, clearly the drill wasn't working out too well. I mean, while they were drilling, even from not even doing so much damage to the surface of the cluster, it already took out 2 out of the 3 drills. So yeah, it's like
yeah. the drill was taking more damage from itself than it was doing actual damage to the cluster. And as we clarified, the other gems weren't there. They couldn't have helped. What else could they have done?
I don't know.
Peridot and Steven were literally helpless in this situation. It wasn't until Steven got the idea to bubble the whole thing. And it's already been clarified that him bubbling that entire thing is it's a stretch, but even the show takes notice of that. Because you remember, when they go back to the surface, Steven and Peridot are really happy. Like, Peridot's hugging Steven. They did it. Mission accomplished. The other 3 show back up. Garnet has Lapis in her arms. She's unconscious. And, it's like, how did you stop the cluster? It's like, did you destroy it? And Steven's like, nope, we bubbled it. And Peridot's reaction was like, you bubbled that entire thing? How? Like, the show itself is taking notice that, yeah, it is ridiculous. And it's like, but Steven, like, brings up, we had help. And yeah, because it's from the other gem shards. and that was brought up. But the show does take notice. It is ridiculous. It is. But this was a very Steven-y way of finishing it, though.
I guess. But just because you point out that something is fucking ridiculous doesn't excuse that, it's fucking ridiculous. It's just one of those things. That's where it's like, I don't know. It was like, the entire episode I thought was like, really well handled and everything. Like you said, like very heart pounding and stuff. But it was just those last couple of minutes. That's where I was like, I don't know. To me, it raised way too many questions. And it's like, I couldn't enjoy it nearly as much as you did.
But yeah, so basically to sum up the whole situation with Steven and the cluster, and if I may quote the Bubble Buddy SpongeBob episode, he kept us waiting for a bubble.
What?
Oh, really, PJ? You have not seen that SpongeBob episode?
I've seen the episode, but how is that relevant here?
Oh, from all the temptation from what's gonna happen with the cluster, but it turns out, Steven ends up bubbling the entire cluster.
Well, it's like, and I find it funny that people just think that one giant bubble that Steven created on his own. I kind of imagine that Steven didn't create that giant. Like, remember, the bubble, the shards were bubbling each other, and if you know how bubbles work, if two bubbles combine, they just form a bigger bubble. So more than likely, it just all the little bubbles just along with Steven's bubble just combined into a really big bubble. That's more than likely what happened.
That's true.
So now, with that episode over, right now, you know what, Danny, I'm not surprised, because aside from that, you also thought it was just generally anticlimactic too,
Yeah. I don't know, I was expecting something maybe a little bit more grander, because, you have been building up this fucking cluster for well over an entire season.
Well,
it's been brought back since season 1 and everything is when we
that's why I make the SpongeBob reference, because like you keep saying, Danny, it's from all that build up on how to stop the cluster and all of that, and then it turns out to be a bubble.
Well, here's my
I kind of was expecting it maybe to be a little bit more grander, because you have been building this thing up for so long, and it's like, that's it.
I mean, I guess in a way I can kind of forgive it, because it is still technically the first episode of a brand new season. So I guess that means that may be a sign of what else if there's going to be anything else in development in regards to the cluster, as opposed to just
that's my massive. Those are my thoughts those are my thoughts as well, Ryan. Because here's my thing. I think the reason maybe why it's so anticlimactic might be more than likely is because we're not done with the cluster yet. It's bubbled, it's stopped from forming, but it's still there. It's still underground, and if that bubble were to ever pop, it's going to form whether the cluster wants to or not. And that kind of brings me back to an idea that a lot of people have been thinking about as well from the prior episode. Jasper fell into a hole underground.
Yeah, that's actually what I kind of brought up, or in a way tried to segue into, earlier during the discussion. Jasper fell into a crack, and if anything, that major crack may or may not, I'm just throwing spitballs here, may have had Jasper fall down relatively near the cluster.
Well, I wonder about that as well, because actually, it's funny. My girlfriend did research on gem properties to see if Jasper could even survive being able to go down that, and actually no. The real life gem Jaspers will be melted once they reach that point of the magma.
Oh.
But I'm sure they're probably going to find a way to BS that as well. I mean, if they do go with this, a part of me tells me that they're not going to go this route because it does seem a little obvious. Yeah. But then if they do go the obvious route and Jasper does end up with the cluster, Jasper could very well pop the bubble. And then, you know what? At the same time as well, think of this. Jasper clearly found a new appreciation for fusion based on her dialogue during the fight with Alexandrite. So what if Jasper not only popped the bubble, but then tried fusing with the cluster?
God damn it, I was just thinking that. It's like, oh god, Jasper fusing herself with the cluster. Oh god.
See, that would...
If that were to happen, she would probably end up completely losing control over
herself. I don't think she'd care. I think she'd just want the power.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So it's like, who knows? Like, there could be a reason why this episode just seems so anticlimactic. Probably because they may be building up something new, like even more deadly in the future.
Could be. Yeah. Something tells me, and I could be completely wrong here, but something tells me, this season will more while it won't completely revolve around the cluster, in a way, probably one of the main focuses regarding this season may or may not be revolving around the cluster. Maybe. If
not the cluster, because obviously no, that's not true. Yellow Diamond. I completely forgot about her.
Yeah, we still have the diamonds in Homeworld to worry about.
Yeah, because the immediate on-Earth threat is gone, as far as we're aware anyway. The cluster stopped, Peridot's on her side. I guess we're going to see what becomes of Lapis in the next few episodes, actually. We'll see what becomes of her.
From what I've seen of previews, Lapis is joining the team.
But so it's Jasper's somewhere, so people are going to still be thinking of Jasper and what she's going to be doing. The cluster itself is still, while subdued, is still there. So whether it's Jasper or Yellow Diamond, one of those, because actually, no, now I think about it. Remember what Yellow Diamond said when Peridot tried convincing her to spare the Earth? Yellow Diamond wanted that cluster really badly. Mm-hmm. She wanted it. So if she ever makes it to Earth, her first priority is probably going to be to awaken it. While the cluster, that makes more sense now. So while the cluster is subdued as it is, the threat's not over yet. I'm going to say that right now. It's more than likely, it's the threat of it's not gone.
Yeah.
It's still there. Until that sucker is pulled out of the Earth some fucking how. Maybe if I don't know. Did we see any teleportation methods? I don't think so.
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Shadow, we need your chaos control.
Hey, any one of you gems out there supposedly part Chaos Emerald?
No, exactly. You know what? The seven Chaos Emerald gems form Super Gem. It knows chaos control.
Where's that damn fourth crystal gem?
Oh, well. So, joking aside, I just thought this was a very powerful comeback after so long. I was honestly not, you guys remember how I was after I saw these episodes, before you guys even saw them. I was not mentally prepared for these episodes.
Okay, guys, hold on. I cannot record yet. I need a moment. Give me a minute. I need to breathe.
So I guess with that being said, so where do you think it's going to go next from this point? More than likely, honestly, I think at this point, it's probably going to develop Lapis a little more.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, there have been previews. There's 2 I've seen that involve Lapis. Oh, one of them's actually a really cute one. It just looks like it's just Lapis and Steven just hanging out. There's a whole thing where she grabs his arms or something, and they're just kind of flying and stuff. It was really cute. I saw it. I think Amanda actually shared it on Facebook. Was where I saw that clip. But then I saw another one where it looked like there was a spaceship or something that I think Peridot was saying that, oh no, they've come for me because she's a traitor and all. And she thinks they're coming back to get her. Lapis just has this stone cold pissed look on her face. Doesn't even utter a word. She just walks up and just starts summoning water and just completely makes this ship her bitch.
Wow.
So it's those are the 2 clips that I've seen so far. So I think it's safe to say the next episode or maybe the next 2 probably will be further developing Lapis and probably getting her to actually join the team. Because, bear in mind, Lapis, even though Lapis, she has no love for Homeworld, but she really doesn't have love for Earth either. She went through this whole thing about stealing the ocean just so that she could get back to Homeworld. And then, when she got back there, she was like, oh shit, this is not the Homeworld. This is not the same Homeworld as it was when I left it. And,
yes.
That was the whole end of season 1 where she tried to warn Steven about all that and everything. So I would imagine the next couple of episodes is probably going to be Steven and Lapis, they're finally reconnecting and everything. And, maybe through Peridot, or maybe the other gems get their input and everything. Like, there's going to have to be something besides Steven, I would imagine, to want to convince Lapis to stay and actually protect the Earth.
I know a big part of it's going to be Steven, though, because at this point, Lapis is effectively homeless at this point. Like, I'm pretty sure she's probably going to be seen as a traitor by her homeworld at this point. And really, the only person that she has any real emotional connection to right now is Steven.
Right. But I would imagine, like, maybe Peridot could step up and everything. Because, I mean, it's like, hey, she's a traitor too. So it's like, some kind of a common ground, Plus, hey, let's actually see, like, Garnet, Pearl, and Amethyst, let's see some more character development with them, between them and Lapis. Because, again, bear in mind, when Lapis was first introduced, when she was, like, fused together with that mirror and everything, and it was like, and after the whole stealing the ocean and everything, I mean, it was like, we didn't really get to see a whole lot of, like, development, or I guess, like, interactions more so between the three main gems and Lapis. So I would imagine we'll be seeing something coming up. But, I mean, yeah, I agree. Steven would be the biggest influence, but I would also imagine Peridot would probably be a pretty big one, just because they've got the common ground now that's like both traitors. That's
also hard to say, too, because obviously Lapis is a very spiteful person, for one thing. It's like, obviously she has this big grudge against the crystal gem, because they had her trapped in that mirror. Yeah. I also kind of wonder if maybe she'll have some kind of grudge against Peridot, considering I'm pretty sure the last time Lapis saw Peridot, Peridot was trying to invade the Earth. It's probably going to take a lot of convincing, more than likely on Steven's end, to convince Lapis, to like these other gems.
Yeah, that is true.
Right, but I mean, I would imagine Peridot would step up to that challenge. I mean, we did see an entire episode where it was like, if you remember the episode where we got more like concrete evidence behind Amethyst's backstory, that was like, after explaining what happened, why Amethyst ended up the way she did, and how, how hurt and offended she was. It was like, yeah, Peridot went out of her way to apologize. So it's like, I could imagine where it's like, in a situation like that, where it's like, Lapis would not look kindly to Peridot, because, I mean, after all, she and Jasper just used Lapis as, all right, they basically treated her as like I think she's called her an informant.
Yeah.
So it's like, basically it's like, yeah, Lapis would look at Peridot and would be like, oh, fuck, no, you used me. But I would also see Peridot going out of her way to try to, like, try to make things right, because she already did with Amethyst.
Oh yeah,
I could see her doing that with Lapis.
Yeah, and I could see Peridot doing that too. But the question is, how easily / hard will it be to sway Lapis?
Right, you never know. I mean, it could take a couple episodes.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. Like, what I was trying to say. Yeah, I guess we'll see more on Lapis in a little bit. Like, one thing I do want to bring up before we end this off, though. Mm-hmm. I just love how far Peridot has come. Because I think one of the biggest sign of her character development in general, when she first started, cooperating with the gems, before she was even an official, she was more of a prisoner than anything else. Like, whenever the gems would, like, give her, like, a recommendation. Like, I remember it was a specific point where, when she did something good, and Garnet gave her, like, a slight tap on the back, saying, hey, a pat on the back saying, hey, good job. And Peridot flinched. She got really scared, as if Garnet was about to attack her. Now, here, Peridot and Steven just saved the Earth, and Peridot's the first one to go up and hug Steven from behind, and laugh, like, how happy she is. Mm-hmm. Like, at first she was afraid of any kind of contact, and she thought it was a threat. Now she's willing to be really handsy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, in such a short amount of time, she has gone through tons of character development.
Well, you say short amount of time, but I wonder but there's no definitive amount of time ever shown between these episodes. Like how many episodes do you think maybe have been in this? Like, maybe 6 or 7? In terms of when they started building the drill and such.
I would say probably maybe closer to 10.
So, yes, there's no definitive amount of time between how long it took them to build this thing. So who knows? Like, it could, for all we know, it could have been a few months.
Right, but regardless, I guess in a short amount of episodes.
Yeah. In any which case, I think that'll do. Like, unless either of you have any final thoughts.
Yeah, honestly, no. I think I pretty much said what I need to say so far.
Yeah.
Now I have to play the waiting game and wait for the next Steven Universe episode to come out.
Yeah, I mean, so far this is shaping up to be a really cool season.
Yeah, already off to a really strong start.
Yeah,
putting the whole ridiculousness aside with the bubbling of the cluster and all that.
Yeah,
putting that aside, it was still a really great start.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm actually so fucking happy too because, like, by pure coincidence and chance, my work happened to give me the next 2 Thursdays off.
Nice.
All right.
Yep.
So I guess at this point, it's like what we said. They're handling this event differently. This isn't the last bombs that we've had where we had new episode every day. It's new episodes every Thursday. So, I guess every week now we'll be cranking out some discussions regarding these episodes. Hopefully we'll get them cranked out a little bit sooner. We are a little late. We are a little late on this one.
Well, yeah, it was more so due to our work schedules and the timing and all of that. So hopefully for this next discussion, and probably for the next maybe 2 or 3 more discussions after the next one. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to crank them out a lot sooner than this one. Mm-hmm. But it'll be kind of stretching it a little bit. It's easier said than done.
All right. Well, in which case, I guess that'll do it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We are the SpiffyNeedleGeeks, Brawl Fan 1, Supersonic 7, and Rasta Rises, and we will see you all later.
See you guys in the next Steven Universe discussion. Later, everybody.